Angela Moore, the first black woman to lead one of the fastest-growing tech companies in America, arrived at the Whitmore estate with quiet confidence. The towering mansion gleamed under golden lights, filled with the country's wealthiest and most influential people. Tonight was supposed to mark a historic partnership, a $500 million deal between her company and the Whitmores, one of the richest white families in the nation. She stepped out of her sleek black car in a deep blue tailored suit, her hair styled in soft waves, exuding power and grace. As she entered the grand hall, crystal chandeliers sparkled above, and every pair of eyes seemed to follow her. Some looked with curiosity, others with judgment. The Whitmores greeted her with polite smiles, but she could sense the thin layer of condescension beneath their words. She reminded herself to focus on the goal, securing the deal that would revolutionize the industry. Servers moved around with trays of champagne as the sound of soft classical music filled the air. Angela kept her back straight, her mind sharp, and her smile steady. She had faced tougher rooms before, rooms where no one believed she belonged, yet she proved them all wrong. But something about tonight felt different. The whispers, the sideways glances, the faint smirks exchanged between certain guests. They were small, but not small enough to miss. She took a seat at the long dining table, her documents neatly placed beside her plate. The evening had only just begun, and she was ready to represent herself and her company with pride. Still, deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that this night might test more than her business skills. It might test her very dignity. Dinner began with a glimmer of elegance, silverware clinking softly and the scent of roasted lamb filling the air, but the atmosphere around Angela felt strangely sharp. Thomas Whitmore, the patriarch, raised his glass and said with a smug smile, "To diversity, it makes the headlines look good." A wave of polite laughter swept the table, but Angela's smile tightened. She took a slow sip of her wine, pretending not to notice the eyes watching for her reaction. A woman seated across from her leaned in and added, "It's truly remarkable what you've accomplished, considering where you come from." The words, wrapped in a tone of false admiration, carried the weight of insult. Angela's heart pounded, but she kept her voice calm and professional, responding with a measured "thank you." The conversations around her seemed to swirl with undertones she couldn't ignore. Comments about modern times, about giving opportunities to everyone, as if her success was charity instead of hard-earned brilliance. She caught sight of a younger Whitmore son whispering something to a guest, both glancing at her with smirks. Every remark, every look, chipped away at the polite mask she wore. She thought of the years she had fought to build her company from the ground up. The sleepless nights, the sacrifices, all to sit at tables like this, only to be treated as a novelty. She forced herself to breathe, telling herself that securing the deal mattered more than responding to ignorance. Yet deep inside, a quiet fire had started to burn, and with each passing minute, she began to wonder if her presence here was a win for her career or a compromise of her self-respect. The main course had barely been cleared when the moment came that shattered Angela's patience. Thomas Whitmore leaned closer, his voice low but loud enough for nearby guests to hear, and said with a smug grin, "You're smart, for someone from the projects." The words sliced through the hum of conversation like a blade. For a brief second, the room seemed to freeze. Angela set down her fork slowly, her hands steady even as her chest tightened. Around the table, a few guests exchanged awkward glances, while others pretended not to notice. She looked Thomas directly in the eye, her expression calm but unflinching. "Excuse me?" she asked, her voice even, though every muscle in her body urged her to walk out. Thomas smirked, as if expecting her to laugh it off. Instead, Angela pushed back her chair and rose to her feet. The sudden movement drew every gaze in the room. "This deal is over," she said clearly, her voice ringing through the grand hall. Gasps rippled around the table. "You don't get to profit from my brilliance while mocking my existence." Her tone was steady, every word deliberate. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the faint clink of a wineglass being set down. Thomas's smirk faltered, but Angela didn't give him the satisfaction of a longer look. She gathered her documents, tucked them neatly into her bag, and walked toward the door. Each click of her heels against the marble floor echoed like a countdown, each step a statement that her dignity was worth more than any contract. As she left the mansion, the cool night air hit her face, and for the first time that evening she felt the weight lifting from her shoulders. The deal was gone, but so was the insult's power. By the next morning, Angela's decision was making headlines across every major business outlet. CEO walks out on $500 million deal after public insult flashed on TV screens and news sites. Social media exploded with clips and photos from the dinner captured by guests who had recorded the moment in shock. The Whitmore family's company suffered immediate backlash. Investors began calling for explanations, stock prices tumbled, and whispers of internal conflict grew louder. Some accused Angela of being too emotional, but thousands more hailed her as a woman of integrity and courage. Her phone didn't stop ringing. Fellow CEOs, influential leaders, and even celebrities reached out to express support. Offers for new partnerships flooded her inbox, each one more lucrative than the last. While the Whitmores scrambled to control the damage, Angela sat in her sleek office, sipping coffee and reviewing her company's soaring public engagement numbers. She knew the media storm wasn't just about business. It had struck a chord far deeper. People were tired of watching talented individuals humiliated for the amusement of the powerful. Her assistant walked in with a stack of partnership proposals, all from companies eager to work with someone who valued respect over profit. Angela felt a deep sense of vindication, but more than that, she felt empowered. The Whitmores had thought they could belittle her and still reap the benefits of her success, but she had shown the world that dignity was not for sale. As the sun set that day, painting the city skyline in gold, Angela made a quiet promise to herself. She would use this moment not just to grow her company, but to open doors for others who had been made to feel small in rooms of power. This was no longer about one deal, it was about changing the game. In the weeks that followed, Angela transformed the uproar into a movement. She announced the launch of the Empower Fund, a $200 million investment program dedicated to supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs and innovators. The news sent waves through the business world. Not only had she walked away from the Whitmores, she was now using her influence to rewrite the rules of opportunity. Applications poured in from across the country, each story a reminder of the talent that had been overlooked for too long. Angela personally reviewed many of them, determined to give others the kind of chance she had once fought for. Meanwhile, the Whitmores remained embroiled in crisis, their empire shrinking as more investors withdrew. The same people who had laughed at dinner were now silent, watching her every move from the sidelines. One afternoon, during a live television interview, the host asked if she ever regretted walking away from $500 million. Angela smiled, the same calm, steady smile she'd worn the night she stood up from that table, and said, "Money comes and goes, but your self-respect? You never get that back once you give it away?" Her words trended instantly, quoted by leaders, activists, and everyday people alike. That evening, Angela stood on the balcony of her penthouse, overlooking the glowing skyline. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one who was told she would never make it, who had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Now, she wasn't just proving them wrong. She was creating a future where no one had to fight that same battle alone. The deal she had walked away from had been worth $500 million. But the life she was building now? That was priceless.